Welcome to another episode of On Fire here on Daily Mirror. I'm Easwaran Rutnam. With the role of the Tamil diaspora being discussed in the recent past, I'm joined today by the spokesperson of the Global Tamil Forum, an influential diaspora organization based in London, Suren Surendiran. Suren, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Suren, the Sri Lankan diaspora seems to be split. We see one group pushing for a rather extreme measures to be taken on Sri Lanka, while we have others who are taking the middle path. What position is the Global Tamil Forum taking on the Sri Lankan issue?
So, Global Tamil Forum, since inception in 2010, has always propagated a negotiated political settlement in Sri Lanka. So, we have actively engaged politicians, civil society in Sri Lanka, externally foreign governments, international organizations, forums. All those engagements were to engage and negotiate a political solution for the Tamil grievances in Sri Lanka.
I know you've been trying to engage with successive governments. Have those attempts actually been fruitful in some extent?
Well, disappointing, should I say, but nevertheless, only when you engage that people understand your perspective, because there is a perception, general perception, that Tamil diaspora is against Sri Lanka, against everything that happens in Sri Lanka, which is untrue. And only through engagement can you enlighten people and mutually understand each other's position.
Does the GTF feel that Sri Lanka needs a separate Tamil administrative region, similar to a separate Tamil state?
Like I said before, we do not want to prescribe a particular solution to the issues in Sri Lanka. We want a political solution that is negotiated between the parties concerned and the stakeholders involved to arrive at. So there is no pre-prescribed solution for the Sri Lankan problem as far as GTF is concerned.
The GTF was banned with alleged links to the LTT by the former government, and then the current administration has banned the GTF once again after the ban was lifted, of course, post-2015. Do you feel that the ban is not justified?
Of course it's not, and the people who banned these organizations know it. They are just playing it to the gallery, to the singular British nationalists. They just want to show, they think by banning, they are becoming tough. Even during proscription and during the government, the previous government, the Palania government, we have engaged in natural disasters to help Sri Lanka. So, for example, when there was a flood in the south, in Kalathura, Mathura area, we sent 20 plus medical professionals to help with that grievance that the Sinhala people or the people of the south were facing. For example, recently, even during proscription, we were facilitating $2.3 million worth of equipment for COVID relief from overseas. So the proscription is not justified, and they know it.
But the proscription has been enforced mainly over allegations that the GTF has or had links with the LTTE. Did your organization promote the LTT ideology at any point?
Like I said, the organization was incepted after the end of the war at the UK Parliament in February 2010. And we have always propagated non-violence and a negotiated political settlement to the problems in Sri Lanka.
What is your take on these organizations that are promoting the LTT in the UK and in other countries? I mean, is this helpful to your cause and to the Tamil cause?
You need to ask them that, whoever you are referring to. But I can tell you this: the LTT didn't take arms, or the arms conflict didn't arise just like that. 30 years of trying to negotiate with successive governments, singular governments in the South, failed. Shall we start again?
Yeah.
Can I go again?
Yes.
Right. So, so the question was about LTT. Yeah. You need to ask that questions from the organizations that you are referring to. However, I can tell you this: the LTT didn't take arms, or the Tamil youth didn't take arms just like that. 30 years since independence, the Tamils have negotiated and arrived at several pacts and agreements with successive governments of the South, the Sri Lankan governments. So Banda Chelwa Pact, Dudley Chelwa Pact, all of that were just thrown away by the Sri Lankan government of that time. So when there was no negotiated settlement and there was stern discrimination against the minorities, and there were demographic changes that were pushed through the governments, successive governments, and standardization which discriminated the Tamil youth of the North and the East, meant that people took arms. They didn't know how to go about it because democratic processes were not resulting in a solution.
But
so
can one condone the sort of actions committed by the LTT, killing of civilians, killing, bombing, suicide bombings? Is that the way to sort of look for a solution?
No, it isn't. But all I was trying to say is, when you say LTT propaganda and that kind of thing, it sounds like a unjust cause was fought over. It was a just cause that the youth had to fight because the democratic processes were not resulting in a solution.
But didn't the cause for a solution or a push for a solution for the Tamil issue sort of get sidelined as a result of the actions of the LTTE?
Of course. That is why the GTF since 2010 has propagated a negotiated political settlement, a non-violent process where conflicting parties can negotiate and come to an agreement that is acceptable to all people of Sri Lanka.
What sort of solution are you looking for, Suren? What sort of solution is the GTF and Tamil Diaspora organizations like yours looking for Sri Lanka?
You see, it will be presumptuous for me to preempt a solution that I am propagating, or we are propagating, as a negotiated political settlement. So if we take a position in advance of a negotiation, then why negotiate? You stand up and defend your position. Whereas we are saying, let's have an open mind and negotiate for a political solution that can be acceptable to all of the people of Sri Lanka, or majority of the people of Sri Lanka.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had spoken of the need to get the diaspora engaged during his recent visit to the UN. However, Foreign Minister G.L. Peeris later in an interview with the Daily Mirror said that they will not negotiate with banned organizations, giving the impression that there was no move at the moment even to lift the ban on the GTF. How do you see this?
Well, I presume the President and the Foreign Minister should have a conversation.
So you feel that, without lifting the ban, there is no room for groups like the GTF to get engaged or to do something for Sri Lanka?
So like I said, during proscription, we have tried to facilitate over $2 million worth of equipment for the COVID relief. And we didn't say that is only for the Tamil people. We said for the entire Sri Lanka. So the proscription or not proscription, we are just engaging the people of Sri Lanka anyway. When President Rajapaksa announced at the UN that he wants to talk to the diaspora, our take was there are elected representatives in Sri Lanka, Tamil representatives elected through democratic processes. And when they are requesting for meetings with the president to negotiate a political solution, when he doesn't want to meet them, it just didn't make sense that he wanted to talk to external forces or external stakeholders like us, diaspora. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. It certainly is a progressive idea, and we welcome it. But he should first start talking to the people in Sri Lanka who are elected by the people in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, in fact, the foreign minister in his interview with the Daily Mirror said that the president will speak to the Tamil National Alliance on his return from COP26, which I believe.
But I think.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. But I think the foreign minister should first have a conversation with the president before he comes out in public to air his views.
What sort of role do you feel that the diaspora as a whole can play on the Sri Lankan issue, whether it's a brand organization or not? What more or what should the diaspora be doing on Sri Lanka? Should they be pushing? Should they be pushing on the human rights and the political issue, or should they be, like some say, looking at funding the North, giving whatever assistance is required for the Tamils in the North and East?
So the diaspora, just let's call it the Tamil diaspora, is 1 million people. Majority of them didn't leave Sri Lanka to look for economic betterment or anything like that. Majority of them left because Sri Lanka wasn't a place where people are treated equally. And, we were beaten. For example, my family left Sri Lanka because in Vellavata, we were attacked during 1983. So that is primary, that people should understand why the diaspora became a diaspora outside Sri Lanka. Number two, by coming out of the country and being living in foreign countries under democracy, freedom of speech, that kind of rule of law, having a free speech as you could imagine, and also educating ourselves and becoming relatively wealthy, there is a whole series of things in capability terms that the Tamil diaspora or the diaspora, generally the Sri Lankan diaspora, can offer to Sri Lanka to bring it up. The other thing is, we left Sri Lanka because we couldn't live there, or we felt unsafe to live there. Therefore, we feel that we still are stakeholders in matters that concerns our people who are left behind in Sri Lanka. We did a little calculation about this proscription and what impact that's having on the Sri Lankan economy. We worked out roughly as a minimum $250 to $300 million of income, foreign exchange that Sri Lanka could have had is being deprived because of this proscription. Right now, I think the forex reserve is about $2.5 to $3 billion US dollars. That's all Sri Lanka has. 10% of that could have come from the diaspora more. Every little is going to help. So that is the deprivation of for the people, that this kind of proscription and these postures that the government makes has a negative impact on the people of Sri Lanka and the economy of Sri Lanka. So there is a lot to offer from the diaspora, particularly the Tamil diaspora.
Do you feel that the ground situation right now in Sri Lanka has changed over the last couple of years, be it for good or bad?
Certainly for the bad. You just have to listen to the United Nations Human Rights Commissioner's report, which she read out in February this year, and then she updated on a verbally during the session in September. The rule of law, democracy, freedom of speech, civil society activities, all of that is on the wrong direction of the trajectory. People who commit crimes, murder, daylight murder, been pardoned. People who committed crime of making people disappear, the cases are being withdrawn. People who robbed the public purse are being pardoned or cases being dropped. What kind of faith will anybody in Sri Lanka or outside will have about the justice system in Sri Lanka, about rule of law in Sri Lanka? So things are getting bad to worse is my take. And as you can see, the economy is performing so badly that we are borrowing money from Bangladesh. I mean, no disrespect to Bangladesh, but the situation has come to that level of a grievance in terms of economy.
The GTF is very influential in the UK. What message is the GTF actually taking to the UK government?
GTF is a global organization, so it's not just the UK. We engage multiple governments and multiple international organizations and forums and institutions. Our message has been consistent, and we have been highlighting the need for a long-term political solution for the Tamil grievances, number one. Number two, the crimes that were committed, the international laws that were breached during the war need to be investigated internationally, and justice should be served to those people who suffered. So we have been consistent in our messaging.
Do you really feel, or do you really think that, say, the UK, Canada, or any other country, that is putting pressure on Sri Lanka is really concerned about Sri Lanka, or is it just because of votes, with elections in mind?
You see, the Sri Lankan economy, just to give you an example, the Sri Lankan economy is dependent on exports, largely exports and tourism. Who are the tourists, and where are we exporting our goods from and services from Sri Lanka? The largest export partner is the US. The second is the European Union. I think the third is the UK, India, various countries. If they really want to be smart, and if they are only worried about electoral gains, all they have to do is to stop the trade or restrict the trade from Sri Lanka. That will have a major impact on Sri Lankans and the Sri Lankan economy. They're not doing that. All they are asking is have a system of governance that is acceptable internationally. It's not just Sri Lanka. Around the world, Sri Lanka is probably the worst place for journalists, for civil society, for rule of law, democracy. All of that is having an impact on the way the country is being governed right now. And somebody needs to, highlight that and put pressure to bring them in line with international norms and governance.
You mentioned India. Is the GTF disappointed in any way with the role played by India on the Sri Lankan issue? Has India done enough to sort of address or push for solutions for the Tamils?
So, as a member of the victim community, obviously, until a solution is achieved, the feeling will be it's not sufficient. But however, the Indian pressure has been consistent, and they have made it very clear that a solution for the Tamil problem and sovereignty go hand in hand. How much more a large neighbor next door to you can put pressure on in an international forum when they stand up and say your sovereignty and a solution to the Tamil people they go hand in hand. I think that's good enough pressure for now. They can do a lot more, but
So there have been reports in India that the Indian intelligence agencies are very much concerned that groups like, well, they don't mention the name, but diaspora groups may look at engaging with China since India is not doing enough. Have you heard of anything of that sort? Is the GTF actually approaching China, or is any other group approaching China as far as you know?
I don't know about other groups, but I can tell you this. GTF is an independent organization. We engage international community, international governments, institutions, and forums. That's our job. That's our objective. We feel free to engage whichever government, whichever institution, whichever forum that can help to resolve the problem in Sri Lanka. So if China is interested in having a conversation and helping us, we'll be delighted to speak to the Chinese. But that doesn't mean that we are going against any other country.
In your push for a solution for the Tamil issue, is there a sort of impression being given that groups like the GTF has become anti-Sinhalese? Are you against the Sinhalese community while trying to push for a solution for the Tamils?
Not at all, not at all. I mean, like I said to you, when there was a floods in the south and in Matara and Kalutura, I presume 90% are Sinhala people. And the engagement we had in association with Sarvodaya, that we did medical clinics in those areas during the floods, was almost exclusively to Sinhala people by medical professionals who are exclusively Tamil people during the Parliament government. The facilitation of medical equipment during COVID of over $2 million worth wasn't given to or facilitated to Sri Lanka to be given to only Tamil people or not to be given to the Sinhala people. Obviously, majority affected were the Sinhala people. So there is no genetical form in Global Tamil Forum that is against any community in Sri Lanka.
I know former Foreign Minister Mangala Samarveera, the late Mangala Samarveera, had engaged with the GTF, and there were attempts to even, I believe, invite the GTF to Sri Lanka to get involved in the whole reconciliation process, the whole the development process in the north. Did things progress during that period?
Obviously, the proscription was removed, and we were able to help Sri Lanka, like I said, during the floods and that kind of thing. People were free to move around, come to Sri Lanka, visit their friends and family. Like I said, 250 million to 300 million worth of remittances were flowing in when the proscription was removed. So there were a whole series of benefits that were accrued towards Sri Lanka during that time. But shame, anyway, Mangala passed, and that's the saddest part of it. Mangala had good intentions to make things better for all communities in Sri Lanka.
Can the GTF have any realistic expectations as far as the whole Tamil issue is concerned, considering that even the former government, although it made attempts, in the end, there was no final solution. And then this government is also now talking of constitutional change, but we're not really hearing of the sort of solution that the Tamils are looking for, at least Tamil political parties are looking for. Can one expect anything to happen in any time soon?
Well, the president has said he wants to engage. According to the foreign minister, he wants to, when he comes back from COP26, he's going to engage the Tamil National Alliance, which is good. From the UN, the president himself says he wants to engage the diaspora. This is also good. So there are good signs right now from the government, just signs, but progressive signs. So let's wait and see rather than prejudging what and what not can happen. But regarding the previous government, it's not just Mangala Samaravira. I personally met the then President Maithripala Sirisena 3 times, twice in London and once in Germany. There was an attempt to make the constitution better or revise the constitution, and they did come up with a draft constitution, and they went past the approval of the parliament at that time of the draft constitution. So one couldn't say that there was no progress. It just meant that it didn't materialize, but there were efforts and intention to make things better. So granting that there was progress during the last government, and now this government is making the right noises, it appears, we should let them do the right thing and judge them rather than prejudging them.
Right, Suren, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you for taking time to join us on this program. To our viewers, thank you for being with us, and do join us on our next On Fire here on Daily Mirror. Till then, stay safe.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to you, Easwaran.